In this video, we'll review the player registration process, including the registration payment process for both players and adults affiliated with your organization. If you're a new registrar, we'll need to grant you an increased level of security access in Sports Connect so you can manage your organization's player registrations and have access to the upload portal. In order to obtain this increased access, you personally need to complete your annual adult registration and complete all risk management requirements. Additionally, your organization needs to submit an updated annual leadership report by August 15th each year, listing you as registrar. Your user permissions in Sports Connect will be updated once the leadership form is received and your adult registration requirements are met. Please note that an updated leadership report can be submitted at any time throughout the year, should your organization have a change in roles at any time. All the help guides, templates, and forms mentioned and linked on the slides can be found on the Mass Youth Soccer website when you hover over the Resources tab and choose the Player Registration section. All participants must be registered with their organization annually. The organization is responsible for submitting all registration data for their affiliated participants to ensure insurance coverage. Payment is made per player or adult per year, which extends from the fall 2025 season through the spring 2026 season. For example, if a participant plays in both the fall and spring, you only count them one time on your registration submission for the whole registration year. All players need to be registered individually by their name and personal details. For example, if Susie only plays in the fall and Billy only plays in the spring, they should be counted as two players and both listed individually on the registration form and upload files. Players are accounted for on the same registration submission form as the adults, but the actual adult registration process is an entirely different process. If you're not also your organization's risk manager who handles the adult credentialing end of things, you'll need to connect with them to get the number of adults you should be including on your registration submission form and making payment for. You do not need the personal details for each adult, just the quantity of coaches, admins, and board of director members affiliated with your organization for the current registration year. Please note that players or adults who participate in multiple organizations must be registered with and accounted for by each organization. Here's a quick overview of what you should be submitting at both the initial and final deadlines each fall and spring. It's important that you meet that initial deadline with a submission form accounting for the players and adults you're aware of at that time, so we can initiate your insurance coverage for the year. We know you may not have all your ducks in a row by that early August deadline. We just need you to submit what you do know to be true at that time so we can kick off your insurance coverage for the year. If you don't submit something, we don't know that your group is actually on the field and they will be uninsured. The steps of the registration process are outlined on the player registration webpage and broken down into 3 steps. Step 1 is submitting a registration form with the quantity of players and adults participating with your organization. Step 2 is uploading your player data. This may be done via direct link if your club's properly integrated or via manual upload. We'll take a deeper dive into the manual upload process towards the end of this video. Step 3 is submitting your payment. Information on where to send a check or how to pay online, as well as the player upload template and registration form, can be found on our player registration webpage, along with helpful FAQs and help guides. The soccer year officially begins on September 1st each year. When you think of your submissions, you want to think of them as for the entire year. For the fall season, you'll submit all the participants you're aware of at the time of the initial deadline. The total players and adults submitted will be reflected on the initial fall registration form. Again, it's super important that this initial fall deadline is met so we can ensure that your organization, players, and adults are insured should something happen. When the fall final deadline rolls around, you'll only submit any new players or new adults when you submit a new registration form. Payment for these additional players or adults should also be made. At this point, anyone who was affiliated with your organization since July 1st should be accounted for. In the event that all your players or adults were accounted for in the initial submission, all you need to do is send either Rachel Wu or Jess Aldred an email stating so. Then, when the spring season rolls around, you'll again submit only new players or adults that were not previously accounted for on any of the fall submissions by the initial spring deadline. And finally, When the final spring deadline arrives, you'll submit only new players or adults, or email Rachel or Jess to say there are no new additions. For each submission, so fall initial and final and spring initial and final, you'll submit a registration submission form. You'll see a snapshot of the registration form on this slide, but you can find the actual form to complete on the player registration page. The cost of both players and adults are both currently $22. Please note, the number of adults listed on your registration form should match the amount of adults registered with your organization through the annual registration portal for the current registration year. The registration submission form includes a certification that the facts and figures you're submitting are true and accurate to the best of your knowledge, and all individuals associated with your organization are accounted for on the registration form. Remember, you only pay for each player or adult one time per registration year. So if a player played only during the fall, they cost $22. If a player played both fall and spring, they're still just $22. That said, you cannot combine players to make a full year. For example, if Jason only plays in the fall and Kenzie only plays in the spring, they both must be registered by name, address, etc., and both paid for individually as two separate players, so $44. Now let's take a spin over to our website to see where you can find all these resources. So you're going to go to our main website, mayouthsoccer.org, and hover over the Resources tab, and then you'll scroll down to Player Registration. Once you're on the Player Registration webpage, you'll see your submission deadlines, points of contact, and then the 3 steps. Step 1 is your registration submission form and all the information on that. Step 2 is your player upload information. The first section is for integrated users whose information is automatically flowing up to the state level. The second section is for our member organizations that need to do the manual upload process that we'll talk about shortly. And then step 3 is your payment section, which will give you the online payment form as well as where to mail your checks. Now let's take a look at the registration form itself. So you're going to fill in all these required fields: organization name, today's date, your name as the submitter and your role, your email so you get the confirmation email, and then we ask that you include your treasurer's name and email so we can be sure we're sending invoices to the correct person. You'll select your season, which submission you're on, and then how are you uploading your player information. So it's either you're fully integrated and your info is automatically flowing up, or you have to manually upload. And then as you scroll down, you'll see the fee information. So you're going to input how many players, how many adults, and remember you're only adding new players each time. Then you can click this calculate button. That gives you your total. If you have a TOPS program, you'll get an extra screen. If you don't, just click no and move on to the next screen. Once you're here, that invoice total from the other screen carries over. You can enter your name to sign off on this certification here. Click submit, and then you'll get the confirmation screen, which will give you a link to our payment platform or the address you can send a check to. You can also print a receipt as well. Payment is due with each registration form submission. That will generally be 4 times per year, though you can make additional submissions between deadlines if necessary. You can make payment online via the registration payment form on the player registration webpage or via check. Please note that we will issue an invoice. It is possible that the digital invoice reaches you faster than a check in the mail will reach us. Likewise, it's possible that you submit an online payment before we're able to issue the invoice. In this case, we'll still issue you an invoice for your records. We'll also confirm receipt of your payments via email when we get them. I've intentionally addressed the uploading of the actual player information last because if your organization uses Sports Connect at the club level and you're properly integrated, your player data should flow automatically up to the Mass Youth Soccer level, and you're free to skip the remainder of information in this video. Please be sure to check out the help guides, FAQs, and contact information on the player registration webpage or at the end of this video. For those of you that are not fully integrated, you'll need to manually upload your player data. There's a specifically formatted Excel sheet that you need to use in order for the upload to go through successfully in Sports Connect. This can be found in two places. You can find it on the Mass Youth Soccer website under Resources in the player registration area under step number 2, or you can find it within Sports Connect itself in the upload area, in which case you'll choose single club, then player to get the file. It's super important that you use this specific file and don't make any unnecessary formatting changes to it. Besides pasting the info required into the appropriate columns, any changes to it could make it error out when you try and upload. There's a few important things to note before you prepare your player upload file. First, the player upload file is for only player registration information. Please do not include any adult information on this file. Next, if you have players that play for multiple organizations, towns, or clubs, these players need to be registered with each individual organization. For example, a player is registered to play rec soccer with their town program and also plays for a private club. That player would be registered 2 separate times in Sports Connect. One registration from their town upload and one from their private club's upload. Your league will likely be looking for an upload file of their own, and it may not match the formatting of the Mass Youth Soccer template. So please be sure you're only using the Mass Youth Soccer template for your organization's player upload. Also, the upload file needs to be an Excel 2007 or later, but it can be saved as an XLSX or CSV file. Finally, please refrain from including any special symbols, including apostrophes or special characters. This includes spaces at the end of fields or spaces in blank fields, as they may trip up your submission. While there are several required fields noted in red on the player upload template, the one field that you'll need to pay special attention to is the play level code column, column H. This is where you'll input a 2-letter code for whichever level of play your team is participating in. It could be a recreational program or a more competitive program. You'll just need to select the code that applies to your organization you're working with. This document can also be found on the player registration webpage. Now let's talk about where you can find that player upload Excel template and what you do with it. So if you go back to the player registration webpage and scroll down, you'll see the player registration upload template, the play level codes, and then a help guide for preparing and uploading your player file if you need it. So you'll just click on the upload template and it will pop up in a new window. And this is what it looks like. You're going to download a copy and save it to your computer, and then you can cut and paste all the required information into this template. Again, don't do anything to do with manipulating the template itself. You just want to paste in your information. All the red columns are required fields. If you go all the way across, there's a few more. You have to have at least one parent or guardian's first name, last name, email address, and phone number. And then column H is the play level codes that we talked about. So you'll look at the sheet and decide which play level code goes with your organization and put those 2 letters in each cell next to each respective player's name. When you've got your player upload template ready to go, you can log into Sports Connect, and so long as you have the right security access, you should see this upload button up the top. So click there, and then you'll go to New Upload, Start Upload. Up here is just another copy of that template for the upload. You'll select your club, your program, and make sure you're in the right season. Click Next. Then you'll just click the button to upload your own spreadsheet. Go find it. That should say the name you saved it as. Next. And then you'll verify that everything looks right here. So it should say player data. That should be your file name. Over here it will say the total number of lines you had on your file. Mine just had the 1. If you had any issues with the file, it would show you here as incomplete or invalid. If you did have something here, you could click on either one of these and then it would highlight what was incomplete or invalid. If you did have something that was incomplete or invalid, you can trash the file and then go back to the file on your computer, make whatever necessary additions are there, save it again, and then start this upload process again. When your file's good to go, you don't have any errors, you can scroll down and hit Next. And this is the final notification screen. You can add in anybody's email address that you'd like a confirmation to go to and just hit Add Recipient. And then once everything is good to go, you'll hit Import. There are several things that could cause your upload file to error out or have invalid fields, from an invalid date of birth to a missing email or parent name. Generally, Sports Connect will catch it and you'll see that in the incomplete or invalid box. If you click on that box, it'll show you exactly which fields the errors exist in. You can then exit out of that upload process, go back and correct the issue on your upload file, then restart the upload process with the corrected file. While the system will catch a lot of issues, one of the most common things it won't catch is if you were to flip-flop the first and last names, so be sure you've pasted those into the upload document accurately. These are just a few of the common player registration questions we get. You can find the answer to these questions as well as many others on our FAQ document. If you open the document found on the player registration webpage and hold the Control and F keys down on your keyboard, you'll get a pop-up option where you can type a keyword to search the whole document. You can also click any of the blue title hyperlinks towards the top of the document to jump down to that particular section. Thanks for taking the time to fully understand the registration process. All the information discussed during this video can be found on the player registration webpage, which you'll find when you hover over resources on the main Mass Youth Soccer webpage. Please feel free to reach out to your contact with any additional questions and have a great season.